Hello, my name is Taylor. I'm a financial coach. I help families create cash flow systems and monitor them inside budgeting apps. I help families create a budget, create a debt payoff plan, review their long-term and short-term goals to make sure they're saving enough. And one of the common questions that I get around the Monarch budgeting app is how to deal with those rollovers. We use those in sinking funds and a whole bunch of other categories for my clients. And so I wanted to go over exactly how to implement this because it is one of the more complicated features inside Monarch. Not one of my favorites either, but it's so useful if you can do it correctly. So first off, with the rollover feature, you're going to see that it is turned on, this rollover feature, by this little round arrow. And what that means is that the funds in this category are going to be rolled over into the next month. So this negative 57 is going to be brought into March to handle. So you'll see in that blue bubble that pops up, it's rollover from last month is negative 57. You budgeted this month $80. You've spent 108. So now you have a negative 85 left over. So we're not budgeting enough over month to month for gas and electric, or maybe in a few months we know it's going to go down dramatically. And so we're okay with letting that roll over as a negative until we get to like the summer months or something. But that is how you can see that feature is turned on. You don't have to turn it on for all categories. You could just turn it on for the ones that need it. The rest, you can just make sure you're trying to get to zero. And I suggest that for categories that like you don't really want to roll over. For example, a lot of my clients choose not to roll over the food and dining because if they end up hitting their goal of not spending so much on food, what's going to happen is that they're going to take those funds and put it towards one of their savings goals, one of their travel goals, or something else. So we don't really want a positive to roll over. We would actually prefer to take the money out. So like, for example, there's $110 left in this thing. In this case, if I want to make sure it goes, well, one, it'd have to cover the deficits here, but if there weren't any deficits, I could take this 110 and put it towards a different goal, a different category. I could move it to go towards my travel and vacation budget instead. So that's why you wouldn't have the rollover, is to indicate to you, hey, you hit a goal of not spending this, you can do it, use it for something else, you can put it towards another expense that you'd like. But a lot of my clients also prefer to have everything set to rollover, turn on all the categories for that. And I'm going to show you why. So first off, to turn on the rollover, you're going to click on the gear icon next to any category. And when you click on this, it's going to ask you if you want to make this category a monthly rollover, and you're going to turn that on. You can click the starting month. So in this case, I'm going to do February since that's when we're starting, when I'm showing you this rollover feature. And then you have this feature to do a starting balance. You would only want to use this for when you're just starting out with Monarch and you know that there is money in a savings account already designated for specific expenses. So if I know I just started Monarch today, let's say in February, but in January I saved $1,000 for travel or the dentist, because I'm in the dentist, and for convenience sake, I know I'm going to have a dentist appointment. It's going to cost me $1,000. I already saved it in January, so the month prior, and I'm going to press save, and it's going to turn on the rollover and fill this with my starting amount, which is right here now. So now it's saying I have $1,000 to roll over, even though I'm not budgeting for it right now. It's just because of that one expense I know I have going on. That's going to roll over. Maybe it's not happening until March. So if I go into March, I'm going to see that this rolled over. If I needed $1,500, I could save an additional $1,500. In this case, because I'm assigning too much money in my budget, this is negative. Just as a side note, if you haven't watched the reconciliation video or the sinking fund video, those are things that are going to help you with this process, but we want this to be zero. So I really don't have money to set aside for $500 for dentist at this point. In fact, I even need to reduce the home improvement to get that down to zero, because now I'm budgeting for what I'm actually bringing in. But if I were budgeting for this, like for example, in home improvement, I'm budgeting $400 a month. I only spent $320. And so my $160 is going to roll over into March. So now you'll see in that pop-up window, I have $160 rolled over, $500 budgeted. I spent $208. So now I have $452 left over. This rollover does not happen until the month hits. So if I went into February, it's not going to say, it's not going to give you a projection of what the rollover is. It's just going to be kind of reset. It only rolls over the funds once you actually go into the next month. But as soon as you start this, every month can affect it. You could go back months and months. What I do here is going to affect my rollover in March and April. Because I started this in February, all months will affect it. Now, something to know is that you really just need to be paying attention to if this is true. That's all you got to ask yourself is it true? Did I actually save $246? Is that sitting in my bank account at the end of the month, but after all the bills have been paid, after all my income for the month is hit, do I have $2,460 just chilling in my bank account? In this case, it would be a no. Because you can see down here, well, actually in this case, it looks like it's a yes. We only have 1,204. 1,000 of it is chilling in your account, but not the 2,000. So what's going on? Well, you can see there's a whole bunch of negatives. You can't have savings as long as you're overspending in other categories. And so just every month you just need to be coming in here and saying, hey, one is it okay that I'm $57 short? Like, do I have enough buffer in my checking account that I can let this roll over into next month until the summer months? Cool. If so, you can leave it be. But for all these other negatives, these are coming out of the sinking fund. But the problem is that Monarch does not automatically do this for you. Instead, it's just going to let this roll over and it's going to say, hey, congrats, you're still building savings, even though you've been in a deficit last month for a lot of different categories. It's not going to take this into consideration. This is something that Monarch doesn't do as well as YNAB. YNAB kind of does this for you automatically in a way. Once you get to the new month, it doesn't allow you to have extra savings in here if you went over in your other categories. But in Monarch, you have to do this in a very manual way. And so I should only have $1,204 in my sinking funds, but I have $2,460. So what I would need to do is go to cover all of these deficits. First, I would check any non-rollover greens to see if I can just send money this way. So in this case, I can send my $110 that I didn't spend on electronics. I can send that to another account. But of the rest of these look like it needs to come from my sinking fund. So I have to decide, hey, am I good medically? Do I have a medical expense coming up? Do I want to keep that in there? Maybe I should actually just pull it from vacation. Like I spent way too much. I'm going to take that sacrifice, maybe put off that vacation a little bit further, or something like that. If you're not willing to put off the vacation, it just means that you still need to do this. Like, hey, that means that you're probably going to end up putting that vacation on the credit card maybe, or you're going to have to like replenish your savings, but you got to move the funds. Like otherwise you can't trust this. It doesn't make any sense that these are rolling over. It's not real. And so that's something you need to be aware of with rollovers. And that's why a lot of my clients just opt to turn them all on, because then you don't risk a month going by forgetting to do this process. If you turn them all on, then this $200 is going to carry over into March, and you can deal with it in March and you don't forget about it, because it would be easy for you to just like not check Monarch for a few months and you're like, oh, sick, I have a whole bunch of money in my savings accounts. So it really does just take some mental preparedness of going through your budget and saying, hey, does this rollover make sense? Is it actually in my bank account? Did it actually go towards something else? Do not let money roll over if you did not actually save it in some way or form. And so now a lot of questions I get around this is what happens when there's not enough time to prepare for the sinking fund. Like it's going to come out, it's going to start the sinking fund at a negative. Let's say you're like planning for a life insurance policy that comes out next month. You're setting your sinking fund to save like $100 a month for a $1,200 yearly policy, but it comes out next month. What do I do? Well, one is if you already had savings for it, you're going to put it here. But if you don't have any savings for it, it's either you're going to need to be replenishing. It's going to carry over that negative, and it's going to, that's going to end up on a credit card. You're kind of replenishing this fund by paying off that credit card over and over, month to month. Or there's actually another option, and I'm going to use the example of like a large medical expense, for example, like a medical expense came up in the month of February, throws off our budget. We didn't save for it. We didn't have time for our sinking fund to build. What do I do? So here you can see that expense happened. We didn't save enough, so now we're gonna add a negative 4,700. Couple options. One is you can let this roll over as negative 47 and you're just trying to build this back up. But that normally had to be paid for somewhere, right? It either came from savings or went on a credit card. Maybe it came from a friend or family member and you just need to slowly pay them back and you could keep rolling that negative. But most of the time it came from somewhere. And so here's what you could do. You can actually make this now a goal. Even though the charge just happened, it is something that you either now are, hey, I'm going to try to replenish my savings by $5,000 because I had to take $5,000 out of my emergency fund to cover this. or I'm going to really work really hard to pay off that $5,000 from my credit card. So first we're going to show you the savings one. It's the same process for both, but I just want to show you what it looks like if you're pulling it out of your emergency fund. So what I can do is I'm going to go create, normally I'll have a goal already, but if you haven't, you're going to create a goal called emergency fund. And in your emergency fund, once you've set this up, and I have a video on goals if you don't know how to do this, so go watch that. But once you have this set up, I know that in my joint savings account, I have $35,000 set aside for my emergency fund out of the whole amount that I have in the savings account. $35,000 is my emergency fund. So what you can actually do is you can go to that medical expense that happened in February, and you can, you can click on medical. We're going to look at that expense there. I'm going to click on this arrow here to open up another window, and I'm going to attach this to the goal. So now my goal is I just pulled $5,000 out of my emergency fund. You'll notice it's still in here. It's still in medical, but here's what's cool is that it now takes it out of your budget and applies it to your goal instead. So now you have nothing here in February. It's saying that it wasn't part of this budget. It was actually just being pulled from your savings account. So now if I go into my emergency fund, I'll see there was a negative $5,000 here. If I click on this, it's going to show me, hey, you had a medical expense of $5,000 in February, and for the next few months, you're going to try to be building that back up because your goal is to have $35,000 of saved in your emergency fund. So you got to start building that back up, right? Now, something really great though is that even though you attach the goal and it's not in the budget anymore, it still shows up in your cash flow. So in this case, it's all expenses, all income. It's saying that because of that medical expense, it really only reduced my savings by $2,100. And that's just because I was putting a bunch into retirement savings in this specific scenario. But like, let's just say this is an even 5,000 because this is a demo account. That means that you still have the record of, hey, I pulled money out of cash flow. This is still correct. Hey, it was a rough month. Got hit with a medical expense, but your budget is saved. You don't have to worry about those pesky negative rollovers forever. Instead, you now have a goal of replenishing your savings account. Same thing with the credit card. If you want to do that same thing, and instead of attaching this to the emergency fund, let's say you didn't pull out a savings and instead you swiped your card and now you have to pay off the card. I'll show you that one as well. So now in this case, now that I have put the medical expense on the credit card, and you can see that just right up here, what I can do is attach it to now the credit card goal. Because it's coming out of the credit card, I can attach it to this credit card goal. It's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to take the funds out of your budget and instead say, hey, this is kind of coming out of your credit card, and now you need to be setting a goal for your credit card. So if this is in February, to slowly start to pay this off. So you'll see that exact same thing, just like we saw on the joint account, is now the credit cards need to be slowly paid off. So that's the way to handle big expenses. You could do the same thing with, like, hey, you put an extra $5,000 towards your auto payment. You wanted to pay off that loan. You could do the same thing. I would create a goal for it to make that the extra $5,000, put it towards there so it doesn't throw off your budget. But really, you only need to do that for rollovers, because like in the month of March, if you put an extra $5,000 on an auto payment, it's not going to roll over to April because we don't have that rollover turned on. So it really doesn't matter. It's still true. Your cash flow is still going to show, going down $5,000 more than you spent because you pulled out of savings to go towards your auto payment. And so your cash flow is still correct, and then it still shows that expense. Let me know what questions you have about sinking funds, how you're using sinking of funds, or what I mean is rollovers, how you're using your rollovers, sinking funds, kind of the same thing. Same verbiage, but let me know how you're handling the rollovers. If you like the rollover, if they're causing you a lot of stress, let me know. I want to hear from you. I want to see if there's other ways I could demonstrate the rollovers and how best to use them. So let me know what you're kind of going through, and I can make another video for you. So thank you so much. Please subscribe, like. I appreciate your comments so much, and I'll talk to you soon.